Thank you very much, everybody. What a beautiful British day this is. And it really is. Your Majesties, members of the British delegation, friends, service members, and distinguished guests, welcome to the beautiful White House. Great honor to have you. Melania and I will never forget the spectacular honor Your Majesties showed us during our extraordinary visit to Windsor Castle last September. Now it is our tremendous privilege to host you, and you're going to have a wonderful short stay, but stay nevertheless. Then you're going over to Congress, and you're going to make a speech that's going to make everybody very envious of that beautiful accent of yours. Very elegant. He's a very elegant man. Here in the shadows of monuments to George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, honoring the British King might seem an ironic beginning to our celebration of 250 years of American independence. But in fact, no tribute could be more appropriate. Long before Americans had a nation or a constitution, we first had a culture, a character, and a creed. Before we ever proclaimed our independence, Americans carried within us the rarest of gifts, moral courage, and it came from a small but mighty kingdom from across the sea. For nearly 2 centuries before the Revolution, this land was settled and forged by men, women who bore in their souls the blood and noble spirit of the British. Here on a wild and untamed continent, they set loose the ancient English love of liberty and the Great Britain's distinctive sense of glory, destiny, and pride. And that's what it is, glory, destiny, and pride. The American patriots who pledged their lives to independence in 1776 were the heirs to this majestic inheritance. Their veins ran with Anglo-Saxon courage. Their hearts beat with an English faith in standing firm for what is right, good, and true. In recent years, we've often heard it said that America is merely an idea, but the cause of freedom did not simply appear as an intellectual invention of 1776. The American founding was the culmination of hundreds of years of thought, struggle, sweat, blood, and sacrifice on both sides of the Atlantic. Fate drew a long arc from the meadow at Runnymede to the streets of Philadelphia that ran through the lives of people born and bred on the British code that no man should be denied either justice or right. American patriots today can sing "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty," only because our colonial ancestors first sang, "God save the King." We see today a living symbol of this centuries-old bond, just a few dozen feet to the left where I stand. There, Her late Majesty, Queen Elizabeth, an incredible woman who I had the privilege of getting to know. Queen Elizabeth II, very, very special woman who is very greatly missed on both sides of that mighty Atlantic. Long ago planted a young tree. It was a very young and beautiful tree, and look at it now. It's tripled in size and tripled in strength, very much as our nations have even more than tripled. Like our nation itself, it was laid with British hands but grew in American soil. Today it stands tall and proud, reaching ever higher. And this morning it reminds us that the mightiest of trees, like the greatest of nations, must be anchored by the strongest and deepest of roots. In the centuries since we won our independence, Americans have had no closer friends than the British. We share that same root. We speak the same language. We hold the same values. And together our warriors have defended the same extraordinary civilization under twin banners of red, white, and blue. My wonderful mother, Mary MacLeod, was born in Stornoway, Scotland, the Hebrides, and that's what they call very serious Scotland. There's no question about it. Some places they say, well, it wasn't really Scotland. The Hebrides, that's real serious Scotland. That's where they had their greatest of warriors, their greatest of warriors. She came to America at 19, met my incredible father. We loved him so much. We all loved him. We loved her. We loved him, Fred, and they were married for 63 years. And excuse me, if you don't mind. That's a record we won't be able to match, darling. I'm sorry. Just not going to work out that way. We'll do well, but we're not going to do that well. 63 years. And my mother, I just see it so clearly. She loved, and I told the king this, she loved the royal family, and she loved the Queen. And anytime the Queen was involved in a ceremony or anything, my mother would be glued to the television, and she'd say, look, Donald, look how beautiful that is. She really did love the family, but I also remember her saying very clearly, Charles, look, young Charles, he's so cute. It's my mother. My mother had a crush on Charles. Can you believe it? Amazing how, I wonder what she's thinking right now. But beneath those beautiful flags, 8 decades ago, Prime Minister Winston Churchill and President Franklin Roosevelt famously met on a ship in the North Atlantic to outline a vision for the free world after World War II. That understanding of our nation's unique bond and role in history is the essence of our special relationship, and we hope it will always remain that way. The ship where the two great leaders met was called the Prince of Wales, the very title that His Majesty the King held longer than any other individual in British history, and he held it with great pride and respect. It's said that when Prime Minister Churchill first met this future king many decades ago, he was so impressed, he made the statement, he is so young to think so much and so well. And the bust of your great Prime Minister rests proudly again in the Oval Office. We're very proud to bring it back. We brought it back. Throughout His Majesty's life, the world has witnessed that same thoughtfulness which first struck Britain's greatest Prime Minister. His Majesty's intellect, passion, and devotion have been really a blessing to the British people, but not only to his own country, but to the cherished bond between the United States and the United Kingdom. And I am very certain that it will continue that way long into the future. In a few hours, His Majesty will stand in the heart of the United States Capitol as the very first British king ever to address a joint session of the United States Congress. So he's going to be addressing Congress, and I'm going to be watching. I was thinking of going, but they said, I don't know, that might be a step too far. I would love to go. It's not supposed to be protocol, but I would love to be with you. But there, the direct descendant of King George III will speak to the direct successor of the very body that gathered in Independence Hall on July 4th, 1776. If John Adams and George Washington, or the King's fifth great-grandfather, could see that sight, they might be absolutely shocked, but probably only for a moment. Surely they would be delighted that the wounds of war healed into the most cherished friendship. Think of that very, very long ago difficult war, and yet those wounds did indeed heal into the most cherished of friendships, most cherished. They would be moved beyond words to know that the soldiers who once called each other Redcoats and Yankees became the Tommies and the GIs who together saved the free world as brothers in arms and brothers in eternity, and nobody fought better together than us. If they could see us today, our ancestors would surely be filled with awe and pride that the Anglo-American Revolution in human freedom was never, ever extinguished, but carried forward across centuries, across oceans, and across history until it became a fire that lit the entire world. So today we look back on 250 years. Let us remember what has made our countries the two most exceptional nations the world has ever known. And together let us go forward with even stronger resolve to carry on our sacred devotion to liberty and to the traditions of excellence that have been our shared gift of all mankind. Your Majesties, thank you once again for making this important visit. We are so honored. May God forever bless the United Kingdom, Great Britain, and Northern Ireland, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise if you are able for the conclusion of the ceremony and departure of the official party.
You're watching CBS News 24/7 continuing coverage of the royal visit of Britain's King Charles and Queen Camilla. You see President Donald Trump, First Lady Melania Trump there standing behind the seal of the presidency of the United States, marking this moment. Not only this moment, but this moment in history. I'm Reed Cowan, picking up where Vladimir Duthiers and Kelly O'Grady in New York so artfully and beautifully left off. Our thanks for their coverage of this moment, the intersection between the United States and Great Britain and the great history that is between the two of us. We have that split screen there showing the royal family and, of course, the leader of the United States and the First Lady of the United States, because we are awaiting a military flyover there at the White House. All of this, of course, timed with many world events playing out. Iran, Ukraine, and of course, recent happenings in Washington, D.C. President Donald Trump surviving yet another attempt on his life, an assassination attempt at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. That has, of course, raised many concerns about security for this event. But all indications show that there at the White House, as we are watching for that flyover, things are going off very smoothly. White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi joins us now from Washington. Olivia, the royal visit arrives at really a strained moment in the U.S.-UK relations. Barring everything President Trump says, that is the reality in the boardrooms and in rooms the public will not see. King Charles stays out of day-to-day politics in Britain. But the question for you, Olivia, what did we hear from the president today, and what are they likely discussing behind those closed doors?
Yeah, it's good to be with you, Reed, as we're waiting for this flyover. We are expecting some F-35s to fly over the White House. Quite notable. This is the second state visit between these two leaders in the last year. Last September, President Trump went to the United Kingdom, went to Great Britain, where he stayed at Windsor Castle and had a state dinner. It was actually the president's second state dinner in the UK, if that gives you an indication of how important President Trump's relationship with the UK is, and the fact that they want to keep him in good standing. That is the underlying point there. President Trump now returning the favor to King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla, inviting them here to the U.S. The president did just give a very short speech where he talked about the relationship, the enduring relationship between the U.S. and the U.K. He spoke about his lineage, the fact that the president's mother is Scottish, and that he feels a great kinship to the United Kingdom. He even at one point made a comment about how his mother used to watch everything the Queen would do, and commented that she found then Prince Charles very cute. So it was a very moment of levity there from President Trump in talking about his relationship with King Charles, which, you know, has been one of strength. And of course, these two leaders are now going to go into a bilateral meeting where they're going to reaffirm that strength in a moment of tension. As you mentioned, of course, there are some issues that they need to discuss, namely which the war in Iran. Of course, the president has criticized the United Kingdom for their lack of help in securing the Strait of Hormuz and reopening the Strait of Hormuz. At one point, even rebuffing Keir Starmer, the prime minister, who offered to send ships there. So this is going to be a tense moment. I also want to point out that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has made fun of the Royal Navy, called them the big bad Royal Navy of the United Kingdom. King Charles once served in that Navy. So this is really a moment for these two leaders to reassess their relationship, as we are expecting King Charles to go to Capitol Hill later and try to make that pitch to lawmakers.
Well, and not only did King Charles serve in that Royal Navy, also so many of their countrymen and women have served and died in service to being a part of the mission of the United States, something that at NATO, the NATO level of leadership, has been raised, as President Trump has shown some distaste for the choices of NATO and Great Britain, no?
Well, certainly, that's right. And of course, President Trump recently has renewed that criticism of NATO, given the war in Iran, in which the U.S. and Israel started and have been taking part in. It's been in a ceasefire, of course, for the last several weeks, but the president has continually knocked NATO for not stepping up, for not doing more, with his argument being, if you're not willing to help us in this conflict, why should we contribute at all? It looks like the flyover is happening now.
There we go. President doing a fist bump there.
There's the four of them. Yes, and here in the Bureau, we can actually hear them going overhead as well.
Really, it is quite an amazing thing to see and hear. Of course, we see the planes before we hear them. They fly that fast. Okay, so Olivia, we see the president, the first lady, and the royal couple bidding adieu right now and going behind those doors. I want to talk to you about security in Washington. Of course, we know that this has been a difficult note for the presidency and the press in recent days with that attempted assassination. Talk to us about security preparations in Washington to meet this rather unique and important moment.
Yeah, this is happening on White House grounds, which, as we know, is a very secure facility. You have to go through, multiple layers of security, including going into the South Lawn. They check everyone's badges. So there is already security measures in place there. The perimeter surrounding the White House fencing went up yesterday. There were construction trucks that were filled with gravel that were around the area for any potential car attacks or just preparations for that, especially as this is getting underway. King Charles and Queen Camilla stayed on White House grounds last night at Blair House, so they were in the secure perimeter, and now they're going to head over to Capitol Hill. And of course, there are concerns about security given what happened on Saturday night. We know yesterday that White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles met with U.S. Secret Service, where they talked about the incident, talked about going forward what they can do to make sure that this will continue. The president can continue with some of his engagements and will remain safe. We should note this is the third attempt on his life just in the last 2 years. Certainly something that they are focused on is his security for not just this event, but looking ahead. We have a UFC fight on the lawn, White House lawn, coming in June. We have America 250 events surrounding July 4th. We have the World Cup this year. There's also an Indy car race that's going to be happening in Washington, not to say for any of the other political events that the president is engaged with. So security continues to be something they're focused on and concerned about at the White House.
Quite a contrast there, the visit of the royals and then next a UFC fight match. These are interesting days. Olivia Rinaldi from Washington, thank you so much. Let's continue our coverage and our conversation live to CBS News congressional reporter Taurean Small on Capitol Hill. Taurean, as President Trump said, and as you know, the king will address for the first time in history a joint session of Congress. What are you listening for there?
Yeah, well, like Olivia mentioned, this is America 250, which is something that will be top of mind for the king as he makes this address. It's likely that he'll talk about the rich history between the UK and the United States, from that evolution of a rivalry post-independence to the active, ongoing relationship that the two shared between cultural bonds, between common law. And I also have to point out, 35 years ago was the first time a British monarch addressed joint Congress in this manner. That was his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, where she shared some of those same words. She talked about, in her words, "Your Congress and our Parliament are the twin pillars of our civilization and the chief among the many treasures that we have inherited from our predecessors." That reconciliation will likely be at the center of King Charles's speech to Congress as he looks to celebrate this independence that the United States is enjoying now in its 250th year.
I wonder if there won't be a line to be articulated without words today, and that is this. I guess what I'm getting at is the king really is not one who sets policy. That, of course, belongs to their own government's members of parliament, Keir Starmer. The king is a symbol of the partnership there. Could we see, maybe even for the first time in history, a monarch actually speaking about political matters? I'm thinking of Ukraine. I'm thinking of Iran.
Sure, it's certainly likely to be top of mind for the king. It's to be seen whether or not he's willing to deviate from a more level or lighter speech to admonish maybe the president or the United States foreign policy, especially considering the fact that there are icy relations now between the UK, between the Prime Minister and Keir Starmer and President Trump. But King Charles has yet to signal that that's the direction that he'll be taking, even though there are several members of the parliament that suggested he should cancel this trip in light of that. We saw Ed Davey, the Liberal Democrats leader in the UK Parliament, say that bullying by President Trump of their government shouldn't be allowed, and also heavy criticism toward his handling of Iran. So we'll see if King Charles makes mention of that, but it's likely that he'll take a diplomatic approach and just focus on the shared history between the U.S. and the U.K. And we'll see if there is any deviation, but I wouldn't necessarily expect it to be any strong condemnation considering he is in the U.S.'s House.
All right, Taurean Small on Capitol Hill watching for that. Thank you so much, friend.